What happens when evolution gets creative at 3,000 meters above sea level? You get Ethiopia, a land of ancient mountains, volcanic valleys, and birds you won't believe are real. This is a place where ravens grow beaks like eagles, vultures eat bones, and parrots wear eyeliner and scream like retro video game. From the windswept peaks of the Simien Mountains to hidden forests and lava-scarred plains, Ethiopia is home to some of the strangest, rarest, and most incredible birds on Earth. Some look like they were designed by comic book artists, some haven't changed since the Ice Age, and some, we're still trying to figure out what they are. So grab your binoculars, maybe a field guide, and definitely some altitude tolerance. Because this isn't just another bird-watching trip. This is Ethiopia, where birds don't just fly, they defy everything you thought you knew. Let's start our journey with a goose that refuses to migrate, flies only when it really has to, and wears the rarest shade of blue you'll ever see on a water bird. Meet the Bluewing Goose, a chunky, quiet, and entirely Ethiopian resident, found nowhere else on Earth. It lives in high-altitude wetlands and mountain streams, especially above 2,500 meters, in landscapes where fog clings to the grass and cold air hums through the reeds. From a distance, it might look like a normal goose, gray-brown body, pale face, waddling along the water's edge. But then it stretches its wings, and you see it, a flash of iridescent deep blue running across the flight feathers. No other goose has this exact look. No other goose lives like this. Fun fact, the blue-winged goose barely migrates. It doesn't need to. The highland climate is just right year-round, and it's adapted to slow, deliberate life above the clouds. It feeds mostly on grass and aquatic plants, rarely swims and walks with a slightly awkward, ground-heavy gait, more mountain shepherd than graceful swan. And it doesn't honk. It whispers with low, muffled grunts that sound like someone trying not to wake the neighbors. Once thought to be related to shelducks or Egyptian geese, this species is so distinct it now stands in a genus of its own. A goose without relatives. Sadly, the blue-winged goose is listed as vulnerable. Its wetlands are shrinking due to overgrazing, agriculture, and water diversion. And even slight disturbances can disrupt its breeding. Spotting one in the wild feels like meeting a quiet survivor, built for thin air, high ground, in a world slowly vanishing beneath its feet. It doesn't migrate, it doesn't shout, it just stays and endures. Some birds confuse predators. This one confuses scientists. Meet the Ethiopian bush crow, a sleek, pale gray bird with blue skin around its eyes and a name that might be a total lie. Why? Because despite being called a crow, this bird is genetically closer to starlings. And yet, it moves like a jay, calls like a robot, and lives like it's got a PhD in desert survival. You'll only find it in a tiny patch of southern Ethiopia, in dry acacia savannas around Yabalo and Arero. We're talking micro-endemic. This bird doesn't live anywhere else. It's about 11 inches long, with a long tail, black beak, and that signature face, powder gray feathers and bold bluish skin that makes it look slightly shocked at all times. Fun fact, the Ethiopian bush crow is incredibly social. They live in noisy groups, mob predators, build large communal nests, and constantly chatter to each other with squeaky, buzzy calls. Like walkie-talkies in a bird's body. They eat insects, spiders, seeds, and sometimes small lizards, foraging mostly on the ground, but always alert, always watching. What makes this bird so strange isn't just how it looks, it's how scientifically misplaced it is. For decades, ornithologists thought it was a type of jay or crow, but DNA tests later said, nope, closer to glossy starlings. So now it sits on a lonely branch of the bird family tree. Like nature's weird cousin, no one expected to show up. It's listed as vulnerable due to habitat loss, climate shifts, and its extremely limited range. If the dry savanna it loves keeps shrinking, this quirky bird could vanish entirely. And that would be a tragedy, Because in a world of clearly labeled species, the Ethiopian bush crow proudly says, none of the above. It walks like it owns the place. It honks like a broken trumpet. And it wears a fleshy neck accessory no one asked for. Say hello to the Waddled Ibis, a long-legged, long-beaked oddball you'll only find in the highlands of Ethiopia. This bird lives at altitudes where most people need oxygen masks, roaming moorlands, cliffs, and alpine farms above 2,000 meters. And it doesn't just survive there, it thrives. At first glance, it's a classic ibis: curved bill, dark plumage, slow, careful walk. But look closer, and you'll see it. A pair of fleshy wattles dangling from either side of its throat, like someone tried to give it earrings but stopped halfway. Nobody really knows what the wattles do. Mating signal? Thermoregulation? Personal style choice? Science is still thinking. Fun fact, the Waddled Ibis is loud. Its call is a wild honking bark, like a rusty car horn being stepped on by a goat. And it uses that voice generously, especially in flocks. These birds are often seen striding confidently across rocky hills, poking at the soil for worms, insects, and seeds. They also forage in fields near human settlements, and they're surprisingly tame, even in cities like Addis Ababa. That's right, in Ethiopia, this bird isn't rare. It's everywhere, and yet found nowhere else on Earth. It nests in trees or cliff ledges, usually in colonies, and both parents help raise the chicks, which hatch looking like grumpy, fuzzy dinosaurs. The Waddled Ibis is listed as least concern, but its habitat is increasingly fragmented by agriculture and development. Still, for now, it struts through the highlands with confidence, a bird that chose weird and made it work. It honks, it waddles, it wears its wattles with pride, and honestly, we love that for it. What happens when a raven hits the gym and takes a few philosophy classes on the side? You get the thick-billed raven, a massive jet-black corvid with the biggest bill of any songbird on Earth, and probably one of the smartest minds in the sky. Endemic to the Ethiopian highlands, this bird doesn't just perch, it surveys. From high cliffs, tall trees, and rocky ledges, it watches the world below like a quiet tactician in feathers. It's about 2 feet long, with glossy black plumage, a thick white patch on the back of its neck, and a comically oversized beak. So heavy it's slightly hooked and often held downward like a scythe. That beak, it can crush bones, tear open carrion, and open anything you forgot to lock. Fun fact, the thick-billed raven is considered one of the most intelligent birds in Africa. It solves problems, uses tools, mimics human speech, and forms tight social bonds. It feeds on anything it can find: insects, eggs, grain, lizards, garbage, roadkill. And if you're having a picnic in the mountains, it's watching you. They often travel in pairs or family groups and have a bizarre, croaky call that sounds like someone gargling marbles. It's eerie, powerful, and absolutely unforgettable. Despite its size and dominance, this bird isn't aggressive toward humans. In fact, in some Ethiopian cultures, it's respected as a kind of highland spirit, symbolizing foresight and cleverness. It's currently listed as least concern, but its population is limited to a relatively narrow altitude band, which means habitat loss or climate shifts could pose future risks. Still, for now, it rules the ridgelines. Sharp-eyed, steel-beaked, and smarter than most people in your group chat. It's not just a bird, it's a brain with wings and a built-in bone cracker. If Ethiopia had a forest spirit, it would probably look like this. Say hello to the Abyssinian owl, a rarely seen, eerily silent predator of the night, wrapped in shadows and topped with 2 ghostly ear tufts. Found mostly in montane forests of western Ethiopia, this owl prefers misty hillsides, bamboo groves, and forests so quiet you can hear your own breath. It's medium size and about 15 inches tall, with dark, mottled feathers, glowing yellow eyes, and a deep-set stare that says, "I've been watching you for hours." Its defining feature? Those tall, sharp ear tufts that stand like horns. making it look like a tiny, feathered guardian straight out of a fantasy novel. Fun fact, despite its spooky looks, the Abyssinian owl is extremely shy. It rarely calls, rarely flies in daylight, and is so elusive that even expert birders sometimes miss it completely. Its diet includes small mammals, beetles, birds, and whatever it can silently swoop down upon. It hunts by perching still, listening for movement, then gliding through the underbrush like a velvet ghost. And unlike some noisy owl cousins, this one prefers to speak in soft, hooting tones, barely audible over the sound of wind in the trees. Very little is known about its behavior. It was once confused with the long-eared owl from Europe, but DNA confirmed this is a species all its own, adapted for the cool, misty heights of Ethiopia. It's currently listed as least concern, but because it's so secretive and its forests are under pressure, its true status might be more fragile than we think. The Abyssinian owl doesn't demand attention. It waits, watches, and reminds us that not all magic lives in sunlight. Some creatures guard the night, quiet, rare, and cloaked in feathers. Most birds are discovered by scientists. This one was discovered by a prince who then mysteriously died, taking the location with him. Meet Prince Rusbeliz Toraco, a spectacular jungle green bird with fire orange wings, blue eyeliner, and a backstory worthy of a novel. It's found only in a tiny patch of dry forest in southern Ethiopia, near Negele Barana, where arid hills and thorny scrub hide one of the most visually stunning birds in Africa. The bird itself is about 16 inches long, with bright green plumage, a red crown, cobalt blue face markings, and orange-red wing feathers that flash like flames when it flies. But the name? That comes from Prince Eugenio Rusbeliz, an Italian explorer who collected the first specimen in the 1890s, and then died shortly after, reportedly trampled by an elephant. For years, no one knew exactly where he'd found the bird. It was lost to science until rediscovered decades later, making it one of Ethiopia's most mysterious avian legends. Fun fact, like other turacos, this species contains true pigments in its feathers, not just structural colors. The green is real, the red is chemical. That's rare in the bird world. Prince Rusbeliz Toraco feeds on fruits, berries, and leaves, moving quietly through the mid-level canopy in small groups. It's not loud, but its deep, throaty calls echo through the forest like a distant trumpet underwater. Sadly, this bird is listed as vulnerable. Its habitat is shrinking fast due to agriculture, logging, and road construction. And because it has such a small natural range, even small changes can put the species at risk. But if you're lucky enough to see one, bursting through dry forests like a living emerald with wings, you'll understand why it captured a prince's heart before vanishing into legend. Some birds live deep in the jungle. Others, they're walking past your cafe table like it's no big deal. Say hello to the white-collared pigeon, a bird that looks like your average city pigeon, until you realize it's found nowhere else in the world but Ethiopia and a slice of Eritrea. That's right. This feathered pedestrian of Addis Abeba's rooftops is actually a national endemic. It's about the same size as a common rock pigeon, but look closer. Its plumage is smoother, duskier gray, and its namesake white collar, a bold band around the back of the neck, sets it apart like a well-dressed dinner guest who wandered into a street party. These birds are super common in Ethiopian cities, but also thrive in rural highlands, rocky escarpments, and church steeples at 2,000 to 4,000 meters altitude. Fun fact, the white-collared pigeon may look modern, but it's ancient, part of a highland dove lineage that likely evolved in isolation as Ethiopia rose skyward. It feeds on seeds, grains, and scraps, often foraging in flocks and walking with that classic pigeon head bob, like it's solving a mystery with every step. It's surprisingly tolerant of people, nesting on balconies, rocky ledges, and old buildings, and adding a touch of native authenticity to Ethiopia's city skyline. Despite being abundant and listed as least concern, some researchers worry that increasing urban pollution, pesticide use, and habitat homogenization could affect populations long-term. But for now, this bird is doing just fine, acting like the local mayor of every mountain town and monastery courtyard it lands in. It's proof that not all endemics wear exotic feathers or live in secret valleys. Some just chill on the sidewalk. So next time you're in Ethiopia, look twice. That pigeon you just ignored might be royalty in disguise. If someone gave a toddler a paintbrush, a handful of primary colors, and said, "Design a bird," you might get this. Meet the banded barbet, a small, stocky, fruit-loving bird that looks like it was hand-drawn with watercolor and Sharpie. It's endemic to Ethiopia, found mainly in dry forests and open woodlands at middle elevations, often near rivers or scattered fig trees. It's about 7 inches long, with a deep red face, bright yellow throat, and black and white striped flanks. The patterning on its chest looks like someone went overboard with a zebra print marker. And its beak, chunky, powerful, perfect for smashing fruit and drumming on branches, which, by the way, it does frequently. Fun fact, the banded barbet is part of the African barbet family, a group of birds known for their big heads, loud calls, and love of figs. They're closely related to toucans and woodpeckers, basically the loud fruit guys of the bird world. Its call is a rapid series of metallic trills, often repeated in duet form. When two banded barbets start singing, it sounds like an old typewriter is glitching out somewhere in the trees. These birds are cavity nesters. They dig little holes in soft wood or termite nests and raise their young in dark, cozy tunnels carved into dead trees. Though not globally threatened, the banded barbet is still vulnerable to local deforestation, especially in southern and central Ethiopia, where farmland is expanding fast. But when you do spot one, perched on a dry branch, sun flashing off its red and yellow highlights, pausing mid-fruit snack to shout into the treetops, you'll know you're in the presence of an artist. It's not the flashiest bird, but it's bold, beautiful, and proudly weird, just like Ethiopia's wild heart. Imagine a dinosaur, a stork, and a bouncer at a jungle nightclub had a baby. That's the Abyssinian ground hornbill, part bird, part prehistoric security guard, strutting through Ethiopia like it owns the place. This species is one of Africa's largest land birds, standing over 3 feet tall, with thick legs, heavy steps, and a look that says, "Don't mess with me or my termites." It lives in savannas, dry grasslands, and woodland edges across western and northern Ethiopia, where it spends most of its time walking, not flying, searching for insects, snakes, rodents, and small reptiles. Its plumage is jet black, with striking white primary feathers only visible in flight. But the real eye-catcher? That massive blue throat pouch in males, like a built-in drum that vibrates when it calls. And oh, the call. It's a deep, echoing boom, 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 heard at dawn across the landscape, like the jungle starting a bass track. Fun fact, unlike most hornbills, the Abyssinian ground. Hornbill nests in tree cavities, but doesn't seal the female inside with mud like other hornbill species. They're a bit more modern in their gender roles. These birds are slow breeders, producing only one chick every few years, and that chick takes months to mature. They're also highly intelligent, showing complex social behavior and even tool use in captivity. Yes, this bird might be smarter than your cousin Greg. Though not yet endangered, the species is considered vulnerable due to habitat destruction and hunting, often for traditional medicine or out of fear, due to its eerie appearance. But watching one stomp through dry savanna, eyeballing every movement, you realize this is more than a bird. It's a relic, a survivor from another time. With every slow step, it seems to say, "I've been here longer than you, and I'll probably be here after you're gone." Some birds are strange, some are stunning, and some are just straight up adorable. Meet the Blackwing lovebird, a pint-sized parrot that's native to Ethiopia's highlands and looks like it just escaped from a Nintendo game. This species is one of the few endemic parrots of Ethiopia, found in woodlands, scrub forests, and farmlands at elevations between 1,500 and 3,200 meters. It's small, around 6 inches long, with mostly green plumage, but males have a bright red forehead and face and jet black wings that flash when they fly. Females are all green, more subtle, but no less charming. These birds are often seen in pairs or small flocks, zipping between trees, calling out with a sharp, cheerful beep beep that honestly sounds like an 8-bit video game character got excited. Fun fact, lovebirds get their name from their strong pair bonds. Mated pairs often preen each other and stay physically close, which is heart-melting to witness in the wild. Blackwing lovebirds are mostly frugivores. They love figs, seeds, and fruit pulp, but they'll also nibble on bark and fresh leaves for fun and fiber. Unlike many parrots, they're relatively quiet and non-destructive, which makes them a favorite among birdwatchers, and unfortunately also a target for the pet trade. While still listed as least concern, their populations face threats from habitat loss, especially as agricultural expansion reduces forest cover in central and southern Ethiopia. That said, they're still locally common, especially around the Bale Mountains and parts of the Rift Valley, where early mornings are filled with their fluttering flights and cheerful digital-sounding chatter. Spotting one feels like unlocking a hidden level in nature. Tiny, colorful, pixel-perfect. And if two fly by together, that's love on wings. If a bird could be a firework, it would be this one, exploding through the treetops in green, red, and pure drama. Introducing the white-cheeked Toraco, a species so vibrant, so theatrical, you'll wonder how it's not the national flag. This spectacular bird is endemic to Ethiopia and Eritrea, thriving in highland forests and wooded slopes, especially around Addis Ababa, the Entoto Mountains, and the southern highlands. It's medium-sized, about 17 inches long, with shimmering emerald green plumage, a bold white patch on each cheek, and a velvety dark blue crest that gives it royal energy. But here's the showstopper. When it flies, it reveals shocking crimson-red wing feathers, like it's trailing sparks through the canopy. Fun fact, that red isn't just any pigment, it's turacin, a rare copper-based pigment only found in turacos. So yes, this bird literally carries trace metals in its feathers. It shines chemically. Their call? A sharp echoing cow cow cow. Not beautiful, but bold. Think jungle alarm clock. White-cheeked turacos are fruit eaters, feeding mostly on figs, berries, and flower buds. They're clumsy flyers, but excellent climbers, using strong feet and short wings to bounce through branches like leafy ninjas. They often travel in pairs or small family groups, moving silently, until one decides to shout. Though they are not endangered, their habitats are being pushed back by logging and expanding farms, especially in areas outside protected parks. Still, they've adapted well to gardens and even urban edges, making them surprisingly common sights near Ethiopian towns, if you know when and where to look. Catching one in flight is like spotting a forest flare. Red, green, and unmistakably alive. It's not just a bird, it's a burst of color, a flash of magic, and Ethiopia's answer to fireworks. If Tolkien ever designed a bird, it would probably look like this. Meet the Abyssinian Simterbill, a sleek, shadowy creature with a curved beak and the vibe of something that only comes out when the forest gets quiet. This elegant bird lives in dry acacia woodlands and savannas of eastern and southern Ethiopia, often where the land is dusty, scattered with thorn trees, and echoing with insects. It's small and slim, around 9 inches long, with a shimmering violet-blue body, black wings, and a long, decurved bill that looks exactly like the blade of a scimitar, hence the name. And when the sunlight hits just right, that deep blue turns electric, like it just stepped out of a fantasy novel wearing armor. Fun fact, though it looks like a cousin of sunbirds or drongos, it actually belongs to its own unique branch of the woodhoopa family, an ancient African bird lineage known for being different. Abyssinian Simterbills are insectivores, using their long bills to probe bark, crevices, and dry twigs for beetles, ants, termites, and spiders. They're mostly solitary or found in pairs, and they move silently, rarely calling unless threatened. When they do vocalize, it's a soft, high-pitched whistle, barely audible over the wind. They nest in tree cavities, usually in abandoned woodpecker holes or natural crevices. And they're shy, really shy. Spotting one in the wild feels like discovering a secret the savannah wasn't ready to tell you. While not considered globally threatened, they are sensitive to habitat loss, especially the clearing of acacia trees for charcoal and grazing. But in places where the landscape remains untouched, with scattered trees, golden light, and silence, the Abyssinian Simterbill still dances in and out of view. It doesn't shout for attention, it just glows. And in that quiet elegance, it becomes something more than strange. It becomes mythical. Some birds hide in trees, some blend into bushes, and then there's this one, standing bold on a volcanic rock, staring you down like it's guarding a secret. Meet the Rusbeliz Blackchat, a no-nonsense, all-black bird with attitude, altitude, and a strong sense of "don't mess with me." It's found almost exclusively in Ethiopia's high-altitude lava fields, rocky plateaus, and volcanic slopes, especially around the Rift Valley and areas near Erta, one of the most active volcanoes on Earth. This bird isn't big, about 7 inches long, but its deep black plumage, upright stance, and sharp eyes give it a presence much larger than its size. Only the males are jet black. Females are browner, more subtle, but both share a boldness, hopping and perching on exposed rocks, rarely hiding, often looking like they're scouting enemy territory. Fun fact, this species belongs to a group of birds known as ground chats, songbirds adapted to dry, open, rocky habitats. And Rusbeliz Blackchat might be the most hardcore of them all. They feed on insects, beetles, ants, spiders, often hunting on foot like little raptors, chasing prey across hot rock and ash-covered soil. And yes, the males do a bit of showing off. They've been observed doing short display flights, flaring their wings and returning to the same perch to resume their moody glare. Their song, low, whistled notes mixed with scratchy calls. Not pretty, but purposeful. The soundtrack of a lava field. While not currently endangered, their range is highly specific and limited, which means habitat disturbance from mining or development could quickly put them at risk. But for now, in the most dramatic corners of Ethiopia's wildlands, the Rusbeliz Blackchat stands tall, dark, and totally metal. It doesn't need color. It doesn't need flash. It just needs a rock and a reason to stare you down. Not every parrot lives in the jungle. Not every parrot makes YouTube shorts. And not every parrot wants to be famous. But the yellow-fronted parrot? This one's quietly dazzling and proudly 100% Ethiopian. Found only in the highland forests of central and western Ethiopia, this chunky, short-tailed parrot is a local treasure, living in fig trees, buzzing through fruit orchards, and yelling joyfully into the wind. It's about 11 inches long, with a mostly green body, a grayish head, and a bold splash of sunshine yellow right across the forehead. Males and females look alike, and both look like they're wearing little helmets made of lemon zest. Unlike some of its flashier cousins, the yellow-fronted parrot isn't overly loud, but it can be noisy, especially at dawn and dusk. Their call? A high-pitched ree-ree that's surprisingly intense for such a round little bird. Fun fact, this species has adapted well to both wild forests and agroforestry zones, and is often seen around coffee plantations, mixed farms, and traditional gardens. Where there's fruit, they follow. They feed on figs, guavas, seeds, flowers, and even cultivated crops. So yes, some farmers are not their biggest fans, but bird watchers? They're obsessed. Despite being endemic to Ethiopia, the yellow-fronted parrot is still listed as least concern. But habitat loss, especially in unprotected highland zones, is a growing threat. They rely on large old trees for nesting, and as those disappear, so do the safe spots for raising chicks. They nest in tree cavities, lay 2 to 4 eggs, and both parents help care for the young. It's a real family team effort, with lots of squawking involved. Seeing one in the wild feels like finding a gold coin in a pile of leaves. You might not know its name, but once you do, you won't forget it. This is Ethiopia's hidden parrot, bright, bold, and blissfully underrated. What bird eats bones, wears eyeliner, and looks like it belongs on the cover of a heavy metal album? Say hello to the Lammergeier, also known as the bearded vulture, and trust us, you've never met a scavenger this stylish. This iconic raptor soars over the Simien and Mountains of Ethiopia, riding thermals above sheer cliffs and ancient valleys like a guardian of the highlands. It's huge, with a wingspan up to 10 feet, but it's the looks that really drop jaws. Black eyeliner streaks, orange-stained chest feathers from iron-rich dust baths, and a spiky beard of feathers under the chin. It's giving. Viking falcon meets Gothic royalty. But the most incredible thing? This bird doesn't just eat bones, it drops them. Fun fact, Lammergeiers are one of the only birds on Earth that eat up to 90% bone, including the marrow. To get to it, they fly high with large bones, then drop them onto rocks to shatter them open. Yes, it's nature's most metal lunch strategy. They're mostly solitary, nesting on inaccessible cliffs where they lay just one egg per year. The chick grows slowly, learning the ways of wind and stone before becoming a sky shadow of its own. In Ethiopia, they're deeply woven into local culture, feared by some, revered by others. Some legends even claim they carry away spirits or protect sacred peaks. Though not globally endangered, they are classified as near-threatened, mainly due to poisoning from contaminated carcasses, habitat loss, and the slow nature of their reproduction. Conservation efforts in the Ethiopian highlands, including anti-poisoning campaigns and protected zones, are crucial for their future. To see a Lammergeier in flight is to witness a myth come alive. It doesn't flap, it glides. It commands the sky like it owns it. Because honestly, it kinda does. If this flight through Ethiopia's skies surprised you, give this video a like, share it with someone who needs more birds in their life, and drop your favorite species in the comments below. Yes, we're judging your taste. Lovingly. From bone-eating vultures to neon fruit ninjas, Ethiopia is a land where evolution got creative and never looked back. Some of these birds are endangered, some are barely known to science, and some, they're just plain weird. But all of them are real, and they all call this ancient land home. If you've made it this far, thanks for flying with us. There's more where this came from, so hit that subscribe button for future bird trips to the strangest corners of the world. Because in a time when everything feels explored, the skies still hold secrets. See you in the next flight. And remember, keep your eyes up and your binoculars ready.